This is Julian speaking, welcoming you to another battle report out of the breach. We're in week 4 of the FateofEric event, and that means we are still in phase 2. In this phase, you can choose to give Eric the Unsure one upgrade of your choice. Remember to submit your games on your preferred social media platform and add the hashtag FateofEric to participate in the event and help to decide the fate of Eric. Can bring Eric the Unsure with his first upgrade on him, and he chooses Leshavult's Vessel. Spirits and cultist only, but Eric in his Leshavult version is a cultist and can take it. He gains the Rebirth ability. Once per game after Eric was slain, he can come back during the next replenish step, restoring half of his wounds and placed anywhere in his deployment zone. So Bernd can be a bit more reckless with him because he can come back. Let's see what the Commonwealth can make out of the situation with a reborn Eric. Here you see the 8 who want to fight for the Leshavult, and here the 8 for the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth win the first roll-off and choose to be the early bird, and Kaufmann takes a close inspection of a deep Moonstone in front of him. And Brother Daniel comes to see who joins the party. Old Caldus joins Kaufmann to see if he can help harvest the stone. Eric the Unsure, the hero of our story, arrives next to Brother Daniel. Working with a cult is not so bad, and Daniel always carries lovely placards around. Friar Flavius sees a Moonstone a bit to the side, and he let the holy light guide him in the right direction. Callista wants to take matters in her own hands and joins to see if Gwendoline's visions about Eric are true. Gotchgut knows that Kaufmann always pays him well, so he agrees to get up front and center to see who is also fighting for Moonstones this night. Lubart hears the chatter of Daniel and Eric. He's getting fond of the little new cultist and joins his side. Innocent and quiet, little Nettie sneaks on the field to see if there are any valuable goods to steal. And out of the woods, the Wendigo appears. And here you can see the depth of the Moonstones on the battlefield. Turn 1. The Leshavult have the initiative and hand the first activation over to the Commonwealth. And Old Caldus spends 3 energy to harvest the Moonstone down to a 1 and jogs forward. Eric the Unsure spends 2 energy to harvest the Moonstone down to a 1, jogs forward and rests on his last energy. Flavius jogs over to the Moonstone on the side and spends 3 energy to pick it up. Brother Daniel spends 1 to pick up the Moonstone, jogs for 2 inches and spends 2 energy to plant the placard. And every friendly model within 6 inches can move 2 inches. Kaufmann spends 2 energy to use Shower of Gold. He declares a point within 6 inches and every other model within 4 inches of it has to move 2 inches directly towards it. Caldus moves first, then Gotchgut, and Nettie. He spends 1 energy to pick up the Moonstone and jogs for 2 inches. The Wendigo jogs over to the Moonstone, spends 2 energy to pick it up, and steps twice. Gotchgut jogs over to the Moonstone and spends 2 energy to harvest the stone down to a 1. Lubart jogs and steps twice to deny Nettie an easy Moonstone harvest. Nettie huffily jogs over and pulls out her slingshot to shoot at Lubart. She wanted that Moonstone so bad, and now Lubart is standing on top of it. Stupid giant. She declares a green 2. The Leshavult call OK, and Lubart suffers 2 wounds. And Eric takes a reaction step. And Nettie shoots again. She declares a green 3, and the Leshavult call bluff, because Bernd has the green 3 in his hand. But Nettie is within 4 inches of Old Caldus and his Sage Advice ability, so she can ignore any catastrophe effects. Callista jogs, steps twice to get in base contact with the stone, and can spend her last energy to pick it up. And that's the end of turn 1. 5 out of 7 Moonstones already harvested. No one is wasting time. I missed the chance to pick up the stone with Nettie. After Gotchgut's activation, I saw the opportunity and talked to Bernd so he can block it with Lubart. And hey, then Nettie would have been in reach of the giant and the Leshavult gaining +2 on their next initiative roll. Not many chances to sneak away. So maybe it is safer where she is now. Turn 2. The Leshavult win the initiative, and in the replenish step, Brother Daniel shouts, "Look at the shiny thing!" And Eric the Unsure gains 1 energy. Eric jogs to engage Gotchgut and rests on his 4 energy. Old Caldus jogs to engage Eric with his 2-inch melee range. Eric would like to step in, but the Moonstone is in the way and he cannot end his step on top of it. So he takes his reaction step, but steps to the side to get out of Caldus' engagement range. Caldus steps once to engage Eric once again, and Eric can take a reaction step to engage Caldus. And Caldus spends 1 energy to attack Eric. Caldus has a melee of 3 and can draw 5 cards because he attacked, and Eric has a melee of 3 but can just draw 2 cards because he is also engaged by Gotchgut. And Eric spends 1 energy to go for it, to draw 2 more. Because of old Calder's ability, seen it all before, Eric has to show him his cards. Here the correct timing, approved by the all-knowing Joe. Attacker draws cards, defender draws cards. Attacker may go for it, defender may go for it. If applicable, predictable combatant, seen it all before, reveal hands, play cards. Good move of Eric to go for it, so he can show his mentor 4 possible combat moves. And he drew a low guard, a high guard, a thrust, and a sweeping cut. So a good mixture of moves. As you already spotted, if you got a lot of different combat cards, the value of seen it all before shrinks. But knowledge is key, and Caldas can play 2 rising attacks, and Eric a sweeping cut. Caldas had 2 thrusts in hand and expected the sweeping cut, so it's not too bad to see the cards of your opponent. Caldas would deal 4 plus 1 for his longsword, but Eric's leather jerkin can reduce slicing or piercing damage by 1. 4 wounds on Eric. Eric would deal 2, but a sweeping cut can just declare slicing damage, and Caldas' kilted armor reduces slicing damage by 1. So 1 wound on Caldas. And Caldas ends his activation with 1 energy left. Callista spends 3 energy to cast her Leshavult's Caress on Lubart and declares a pink 1. The Commonwealth call OK, and Lubart heals for 2 and gains protection. And Callista jogs for 2 to be within 4 inches of Lubart. He has a passive ability called Blind Faith, and cannot jog or harvest unless another friendly model is within 4 inches. Nettie spends 2 to shoot with her slingshot on Lubart and declares a green 1. The Leshavult call OK, and the protection on Lubart is gone. Nettie jogs, stays outside of Lubart's engagement range, and rests on her last 2 energy. Brother Daniel steps once, spends 2 for Plant the Placard, and all his friends within 6 move for 2. And Daniel jogs for 2. Gotchgut steps once, and Eric takes a reaction step to keep him engaged. And Gotchgut attacks Lubart. And Lubart spends 1 to go for it, and has to show his combat cards. Gotchgut plays a Fallen Swing, and Lubart 2 rising attacks. Gotchgut can deal 3 for the Fallen Swing, plus 2 for Brute Strength. 5 wounds on Lubart. And Lubart can deal 2 damage for the 2 rising attacks, plus 2 impact damage from his Sensor Chain. 4 damage. But Gotchgut's ramshackle armor reduces non-magical damage by 1, 3 wounds on Gotchgut. The Wendigo jogs for 2, and old Caldas spends his last energy to take a reaction step away from Gotchgut, because he fears that the giant will get mind-controlled. The Wendigo steps once and spends 3 energy to use mind control on Lubart. Lubart can now take any action with an energy cost of 1 that is available to him, controlled by the Wendigo. And Lubart attacks Gotchgut. And Lubart spends 1 energy to go for it. Hello, this is Editing Julian speaking. That is actually not possible. I had a quick chat with Joe, and the model who is doing the mind control is the model who spends any additional energy. But that is a very complex rules interaction, and we didn't know about. So, lesson learned, back to the game. Lubart plays a high guard, and Gotchgut a thrust. Lubart deals no damage, but suffers 2 wounds. Freya jogs for 2, steps once and spends 2 to cast a healing on Gotchgard and declares no card. Lubart has no energy left and just jogs over to get both Moonstones in his engagement range. Nettie was sleeping on the job and just has 1 reaction step to take. Kaufmann jogs and steps once and declares a generous offer on Flavius. He can draw 4 cards and need a green or pink 2 to take the Moonstone off him. And he declares a green 2. The Leshavult call bluff, for sure, because there's nothing to follow up into, so a situation where you always should call bluff. The green 2 is revealed and Kaufmann gains possession of the Moonstone. And he steps once. So much going on. The Leshavult doing a great job of denying the Commonwealth the harvest of the 2 Moonstones still on the battlefield. But the Commonwealth has 2 characters on the field who are able to get Moonstones without harvesting. So, let's see what the next turn will bring. Turn 3. The Leshavult win the initiative and Brother Daniel shouts, "Look at the shiny thing!" And the Wendigo gains 1 energy. Callista spends 3 energy to cast Leshavult's Caress on Lubart. She declares a pink 1 and Lubart heals for 2 and gains protection. And she jogs for 2. Nettie jogs and spends 2 to shoot her slingshot on Lubart. She declares a green 2 and the protection is gone. And she rests on her last 2 energy. Brother Daniel jogs, steps once and spends 2 to plant the placard. And everybody moves. Flavius jogs to engage Lubart, and Lubart takes a reaction step. Flavius steps once to engage Lubart again and spends 1 energy to attack, and Lubart spends 1 to go for it. Flavius plays a sweeping cut, and Lubart plays a sweeping cut. Flavius upgrades into his signature move, Spank, because he can just deal impact damage. His bludgeon increases impact damage by 1 and Lubart suffers 1 wound. Lubart can deal +2 on impact with his signature, but Flavius' natural padding reduces impact damage by 2. No wounds for the Friar. And Flavius attacks again. He can play a sweeping cut and Lubart a high guard. Flavius upgrades to Spank and Lubart suffers another wound. Eric spends 1 to use Revitalize on himself. He has an arcane of 4, but he is within 4 inches of Callista, and every other friendly cultist or spirit within 4 inches of her gains +1 arcane. So Eric can draw 5 cards and declares a blue 2 and can heal for 2. And another energy, another Revitalize. He declares a blue 2 and can heal another 2 wounds and jogs to get in base contact with the Moonstone. Gotchgard attacks Lubart. Gotchgard can play 2 fallen swings and Lubart chooses his rising attack. 8 wounds on Lubart are enough and he is slain. But he can deal 2 wounds on Gotchgard before that. Callista gains 1 energy because of her ability Joy of Entropy. She gains 1 energy every time a model is slain. And Eric gains 1 energy because of his ability Neophyte. He gains 1 energy every time a model within 4 inches is slain or suffers a catastrophe. Gotchgard jogs to engage Callista, and the Wendigo takes a reaction step to engage Gotchgard, and Gotchgard attacks Callista. She spends her last energy to go for it. Gotchgard plays a fallen swing, and Callista can play 2 thrusts. Gotchgard can deal 2, and Callista would deal 4 piercing damage, +1 for her dagger, -1 for Gotchgard's ramshackle armor. 4 wounds on Gotchgard. And the Wendigo attacks Gotchgard. The Wendigo plays 3 thrusts, and Gotchgard a low guard. 3 damage +1 because of his rending claws, and all damage is magical, so Gotchgard's armor is useless. 4 wounds on Gotchgard. And the Wendigo attacks again. The Wendigo plays a fallen swing, and Gotchgard a low guard. Gotchgard is slain, and Eric and Callista gain 1 energy. Nettie takes a reaction step. The Wendigo jogs over and rests on 2 energy, and Nettie takes another reaction step. Caldus jogs over to get in base contact with the Moonstone, and the Wendigo takes a reaction step. Caldus attacks Eric, and Eric spends 1 to go for it. Caldus plays a fallen swing, and Eric 2 sweeping cuts. Caldus can deal 3 wounds on Eric, and Eric deals 3 in return. The Wendigo takes another reaction step. Caldus spends 1 energy to use Field Medic. He declares a blue 2 and can restore 2 wounds. And spends his last energy to go again and declares a blue 1. And the Leshavult call bluff, and the green 1 is revealed. The Leshavult can put in a catastrophe. Caldus can ignore the effect, but Eric gains 1 energy. Kaufmann jogs for 2, steps twice, and spends his last energy to pick up the Moonstone. And Callista takes a reaction step. And that's the end of turn 3. Both giants are dead, and the Commonwealth could catch up with 3 stones. Who will harvest the 4th one? Or maybe Nettie can wander off to do some thieving business? That, and so much more, you will find out in the next turn. Turn 4. The Leshavult win the initiative after Brother Daniel kindly asked for a reroll because he is slightly maddening, and he lets Callista gain 1 energy. The Wendigo attacks Old Caldus, and the old man spends 1 energy to go for it. The Wendigo plays a high guard, and Caldus expected to see the sweeping cut. He saw 2 of it earlier, and plays a fallen swing. Perfect counter. No damage on the Wendigo, and the Wendigo can use both sweeping cuts as follow-up attack to deal 5 magical damage in return. And the Wendigo attacks again. Both spend 1 energy to go for it. Caldus expects a double bluff from the Wendigo and plays 2 sweeping cuts. But the Wendigo takes the fight straight forward and plays a rising attack to upgrade into his signature move, Insatiable Hunger. 5 wounds from Caldus are not enough to kill the Wendigo, but the Wendigo kills Caldus and can heal all wounds and restore all energy. That is brutal. And Callista and Eric gain 1 energy. The Wendigo jogs around Eric to be in base contact with the Moonstone, and Flavius takes a reaction step to engage the Wendigo and deny the harvest. And the Wendigo rests on 4 energy. Flavius activates and attacks the Wendigo, and the Wendigo spends 1 energy to go for it. Flavius plays a fallen swing and the Wendigo a thrust, and the Wendigo suffers 1 wound. And the Wendigo takes a reaction step to engage the Friar. Flavius jogs around the Wendigo and attacks Eric, and Eric takes a reaction step to engage the Friar. Hello, this is Editing Julian speaking. We forgot about the quite terrifying ability of the Wendigo. Whenever a non-troll, non-giant enemy model ends a move in this model's melee zone for the first time this round, it must discard 1 energy if able. So Flavius should have discarded his last energy. Lesson learned during editing. Back to the game. And Flavius attacks Eric, and Eric spends 1 to go for it. Both play a fallen swing, and Flavius can deal 1 wound on Eric. Brother Daniel jogs, steps once, and spends 2 energy to plant the placard. And Callista, Eric, and the Wendigo move for 2 inches. Nettie jogs and shoots her slingshot targeting Callista. She declares a green 1, and Callista suffers 1 wound. Eric activates and spends 1 energy to cast Revitalize on himself, declares a blue 1, and can restore 1 wound. Kaufmann jogs and spends 2 energy for a shower of gold, and everybody, except himself, moves 2 inches towards the chosen point. The Wendigo takes a reaction step, and Kaufmann steps once. Callista casts Leshavult's Caress on herself and declares a pink 1, and the Commonwealth call OK, and Callista heals for 2 and gains protection. Callista jogs, and Nettie takes a normal reaction step. Callista attacks Flavius and plays a thrust, and Flavius a high guard. 1 wound for the Friar. And Callista attacks again. She plays a thrust again, and Flavius a high guard. Another wound on Flavius, and Nettie takes a reaction step using her swift movement of 2. And that's the end of turn 4. Both troops have an equal number of Moonstones. And that's where we go, for the first time on the channel, into
the sudden death.
The sun is about to get up, and when the sunlight hits the Moonstones, they are all gone. So it's time to hurry up and see who gets the most Moonstones. From now on, the game continues as before, but ends immediately when 1 troop has more Moonstones than the other. Killing, stealing, everything is allowed in our very first round of
sudden death.
Excuse me. Our very first round of
sudden death.
The Commonwealth win the initiative, and Brother Daniel lets the Wendigo gain 1 energy in the replenish step. Nettie activates, rolls up her sleeves, looks as innocent as she can be, and starts asking questions to Brother Daniel.
What's written on your sign? What does that mean exactly? Why do you always wear a party hat? You have so much stuff written. Could you read that for me out loud?
Meanwhile, she spends 1 energy to attack him, and both spend 1 energy to go for it. Nettie can play 2 sweeping cuts, and Brother Daniel 2 fallen swings. Nettie can upgrade into her signature Cut Purse. She deals no damage and reduces the damage suffered by 2. Brother Daniel deals 6 damage against a sweeping cut, and because Nettie also played a critical hit, the damage she would suffer is reduced by 4. 2 wounds on Nettie, but during the end step, Nettie can take possession of Daniel's Moonstone, and the game immediately ends. A really close win for the Commonwealth. As always, what a game. Last things first. Wow, we finally had a glimpse of the sudden death. In our game today, the initiative was key because with an initiative win for the Leshavult, the Wendigo had good chances to rip Flavius apart. With +1 magical melee damage, there is no way Flavius can reduce the damage. A bit of what if, but it could have led to a different outcome. He would surely have had enough energy to harvest the stone. I think it was close until the end, because Bernd did an awesome job of using Lubot and Eric to just simply deny me the harvest in the middle. I had a good counter for the protection with Natty's slingshot and was just waiting for my opportunity to steal a stone. Our main take was the question of how to spread or not spread the moonstones in your troop. I was able to get all the stones on Kaufmann, and Bernd had to spread them on 3 different models. It was relatively safe for Kaufmann to carry all the stones because there were no ranged attacks. Because otherwise it can be bold to get all the stones with one of your characters. On the other hand, Bernd couldn't be as aggressive as he wanted to be with a Wendigo, so he was thinking about taking Callista on a flank to get the moonstones and get back into the game. She can gain energy of things dying regardless of where she is, and her Leshavult's Caress has 8 inches range, so she does not have to be too close to her friends. Eric didn't get the chance to be reborn, but I think he did an excellent job of being there, denying the harvest, and asking the question, "Do you want to kill me? Because I'm coming back. And when you don't kill me, I'm just healing myself and stay where I am." I really liked it. And the amount of energy gained by things killed or catastrophes, and Eric could just go for it, was good to see. Either way, we tried our best to bring a well thought out game to you and hope it was fun and interesting to watch. If you cannot get enough of Moonstone, check Paolo's YouTube channel. He is recording games on the Tabletop simulator and is doing live streams on Twitch. You find an awesome variety of troops and battle reports on his channel. Or check out the legend himself, Daniel from Ye Olde Battle Raps. He's doing Moonstone video battle reports since the beginning of time, and he also hosts a wonderful Moonstone podcast. And check out Joe's blog, where you can find articles of different Moonstone topics. He's also organizing the Mischief and Mayhem tournament in Bristol at the end of August. The links to all those wonderful people are in the description down below. You know what you can do to help the channel. Like, share, comment and subscribe, but most importantly, I want to thank you for watching. I will paint up some minis, edit more footage, and hope to see you soon for another battle report out of the breach.